G'day everyone, it's me, the Anti-Theocrat, back with another one. Before I go into the main content, it's a quick sales pitch. It's the only one you're getting, so enjoy it. Below these videos, I do attach all links to the information if there are links to be had. I also archive all of the information if that's possible. I also supply links to other platforms for my content and how to support me if you wish to do so. That'd be nice, but no requirement. That's it. That's my intro. That's my sales pitch. It's all I've got. It's all you're ever going to get. And now, on with the show. And so it is, without further delay, I shall start the, what's this, fourth part of this book review? I don't know. There you go. Masculinity, why does it matter, and other big questions. I don't suspect we're going to learn a great deal from this. It's an indoctrination booklet. It is not an informative science or fact-based narrative. And while it may have some of that trapped in it, that's how you spin a lie. You make a lie as close to the truth as possible, flavour it with some truths, and then it goes down easier. So, where are we? What are we doing? Let's see if we can work this out, shall we? We're going to do this, and then we do this. I'm not on the right page. Where's the right page here? What is the relationship between violence and masculinity? We could ask exactly the same question of femininity, couldn't we? Because we know that women are definitely violent. This is entirely feminist narrative. There is no relationship between violence and masculinity as such. It is true that men tend to be more violent, and testosterone probably does. Well, we know testosterone is a driver in that, because when women transition female to male, they get more violent. But that's not masculinity, is it? That's testosterone. This violence and masculinity is pure unadulterated feminist theory. This actually comes out in the Duluth model. The Duluth model of domestic violence, I think it's called, incomplete. It's worth looking up. The Wikipedia entry on it used to be quite interesting, including the refutation by one of its own creators, who stated that there was no evidence to support the conclusions we wished to publish, so we went ahead and published anyway. That's a paraphrasing, but that's essentially what she said. They did studies to try and support their narrative, could not prove that power was the primary problem with violence in relationships, went ahead and wrote a power wheel in which men were the dominant and women were the victim in all situations, regardless of the fact they couldn't prove it. Anyway, I will move on. In many ways, the world is a violent place. In many ways, men control the world. This is a feminist oversimplification. We've covered this in previous parts of this book. The idea that men are not gynocentric and don't rule the world with women in mind is entirely fucking false. Not only that, the idea that women can't tell men what they are supposed to be doing or thinking or believing is entirely wrong as well. Women do have power. They just don't sit in the halls of power because it's a different kind of work ethic. And I don't mean women don't have a work ethic. I mean it's different. Easiest way to pin this down is women as a whole wish to be at home raising children, or things in that realm, okay? We can consider this in university degrees. Women go for sociologies rather than hard sciences. As a predominant gender, we'll call it gender. I'll call it sex, because sex and gender are the same thing anyway. It's just different expressions of the same thing. But yes, these are sex-based things we can distinguish. So men will go into engineering and politics. That's where I'm going. And politics, because the work required to be in such a position means that you are there for other people. You have to put your family aside. You have to spend less time with your children than you may wish to do in order to hold those positions and undertake that level of work. It's just different. It's not less, just different. Does this mean men are violent? I would say humans are violent. Because if you think women can't be violent, there's something seriously wrong with you. Two of the most violent situations in the world ever experienced are the First World War and the Second World War, in which countries flex their muscles in a lethal game of who can fight the longest. This is just the fucking worst assessment of World War I and World War II ever. Alright, the First World War came about because essentially the world had been at war. It used to be, what, a 25-year cycle between major wars or something throughout human history. And the reason the First World War came about was because Europe and the continent had essentially been divided into territories. The Axis territories and the Allied territories. It was not a well-considered division. And what it did was create a lot of tension. Essentially, the First World War was the war that was inevitable in order to create a different Europe. But it was because they tried to stabilize Europe that they ended up in this situation. So just saying that the First World War was countries flexing in a lethal game to see who could fight the longest is nonsense. The Second World War was entirely different. It was based on things that came out of the First World War, such as economic difficulties for certain nations, war debts that were being paid off, whole range of different things that allowed a certain ideology to come to power. We know which the ideology is, but I'm probably not allowed to say it. Begins with an N. And, yeah. So the Second World War comes out of difficulties created because of the First World War. Or in part because of the First World War. And again, in part due to trying to create a stable Europe. I think we're having the same at the moment economically with the EU. As the EU falls apart, it was an attempt to create a stable Europe. And I'm afraid a stable Europe is just going to have to be individual countries managing to talk to each other for a change. But who in the fuck thought that they'd just go to war to see who could fight the longest? Never, ever the plan. Oh God, we can take this all the way back. We can go back to the Napoleonic Wars, largely because France had been fairly well mistreated by other European nations for a very long time. When Napoleon comes about, he manages to turn the tables on Europe. That's all it is. None of this is about fighting the longest. Both wars were in the first half of the 20th century. Yes, they were. Congratulations for knowing that much. I'm sorry that your simplistic view of how these things came about was so fucking limited. In control, out of control. Oh, by the way, I have simplified why these things came about. But it is fair to say that by creating the Axis and Ally division in Europe, the predominant cause of World War One, that it was a effort to stabilize Europe. During this time, the societies were patriarchal. No, they weren't. You can't prove that. You've got no fucking evidence of that at all. In World War II saw Queen Elizabeth II, then Princess Elizabeth, going into service to serve for her country. But before her was Elizabeth the First, just Queen Elizabeth, I guess we know her as. But Queen Elizabeth went to war in a great many places in the world. Around that time we had Catherine the Great of Russia. You can't just say the world was patriarchal. You're just full of shit if you think the world was patriarchal. By the way, on that score, we already had the women's movement showing its first tendencies well prior to the First World War. Fucking hell. Since then, countries around the globe continue to spend millions on armies and weapons. And meanwhile, the vast majority of criminals in prison are men. Yeah. With most violent crimes carried out by men? No. Again, this is a limited vision because we know with absolute certainty that women will get prosecuted for lesser crimes than men in the same situation and will receive lesser sentences than men in the same situation. We even have cases where women get off entirely for violent crimes because their children need them. I'm sorry, I'm an at-home father. I do not think any child needs their mother. Children need parents. Much of the problem is rooted in the fact that men are encouraged to be in control or powerful or dominant. What a load of fucking bullshit. It says reference page 17 here. So I'm going to have a look at 17. Oh, it's the think about thing. And that's fucking bullshit. I was never told to be in power or be dominant. I was raised to believe that getting a job and being able to support a family was important. But that didn't mean being powerful and dominant. Again, this is the Duluth model speaking. And the Duluth model was disproven before it was even written. This is the case at almost every level of society, in the home, at work, even between governments, whereby the rules of masculinity state that it is right to be dominant in every situation, all of the time, to win every game, to lead every team. Fuck off! You know, one of the things we do with team sports is to lose. A team must lose. It is a feminist new world in which everyone gets a fucking award for just participating. The world before the modern feminist world taught people to fail and to live with failure. Yes, you could be in a dominant team, but there was always failure at the door, the chance of failure. You were taught to be kind. You were taught not to be you were taught to be gracious as a winner, to shake the hands of the loser as you left the field. What a fucking load of shit this is. Can't believe I'm not even through the first fucking page. I'm getting angry at this book already. If you're trying to be in control all the time and you can't, because being in control all the time is impossible, then what happens? You fucking play team sport and you lose and you are not in the winning seat all the fucking time. Jeez, when I was a kid, my hockey team was generally lead in the premierships. Always. We were at the top. And we lost games. It wasn't a big deal. You were gracious to the teams that you played against. Even the absolute worst of them. Fucking hell. And this was shit that we were told. There were no participation awards. You didn't get a fucking pat on the back for showing up. It's not a problem to be controlling or dominant or in charge some of the time. Many situations need leaders, both male and female. Do they? Do they? Do many situations need leaders, both male and female? Or could it be just male or female? Fucking stupid statement. This is one of the things that gives me shits about this book, is statements of fact that have no basis in truth, but also no supporting evidence in this fucking book. Then comes the desire to be in control, becomes excessive, and comes a temptation to use violence to gain this control. Oh, fuck off. Then why is it that women are also violent? Then why is it that women kill their children at a slightly higher percentage than men do? Why do all these things happen? Do women seek power over children? Why is it that we see more convictions for sex offenders amongst female teachers now, when it used to only be the men we looked at? Is it because women want to dominate their students? Or is it just what most of us believe it is? A few sick fucks. Make up your mind. Where are we? Under pressure. It's important to realise that the traditional definition of masculinity that's associated with violence rather than men themselves. No. Just fuck off. This statement is a statement of feminist fact, has no basis in reality. But if there's pressure to conform to a traditional masculine ideal, in which violence plays a big part, it might encourage men to behave in a violent, tough way. It's the biggest rule of the age-old How to Be a Man rulebook. Be tough, strong, and aggressive. No, it fucking isn't. Who the fuck wrote this shit? 2 men wrote this shit. 2 fucking soy boys. Where did they get the idea they were told to be strong and aggressive? Tough, strong, and aggressive. Are they cunts? Because I wasn't taught that. I was taught to be compassionate. To care. That it was my job to earn money, to look after and care for a family. If need be, to defend. If need be, to use aggression to defend. But they were not primary options. The primary options were to seek employment, seek enough money to look after and raise a family. This is compassion. This is empathy. Where the fuck did you get this idea from, you dopey cunts? This is so ingrained in the way we think that we even celebrate violence. Just look at the inter-fucking-tainment industry again. Full of movies, video games and music that promote hyper-masculinity, tough guys doing tough things. You do realise this is breaking away from reality. We don't watch movies because they're real. These movies are a break away from reality. They're fiction. And even the ones that depict war and the war horrors of war are meant to be teaching us lessons about not going to war. Do you fucking understand anything about anything? And again, your example is the entertainment industry. You couldn't find a real life example, could you? Now, video games and music, fucking music. And let's go back to, the heavy metal. The heavy metal makes people evil. You dumb fucks. Hypermasculinity, tough guy going through things. Yeah. Have you ever watched a movie? Have you ever actually watched a movie? The best movies are ones that have character development. And you'll have a tough guy. Some of the fucking suckiest movies that have ever been created about tough guys were how they look after kids in a tough and hyper masculine way. But as the movie goes on, you see their soft side. Fucking hell. So on to the big question. Does the world create violent men? The world creates violent people. That's it. The world creates violent people. A history of violence. Oh, for fuck's sake. You couldn't even show you understood the history of the First and Second World War. As a species, it looks like humans are addicted to violence. If you look at world history across different countries and different communities, violence is... Right, I'm not reading the rest of this shit, because this is just feminist power theory. They assume that human history is simply about violence. There's no understanding that land, resources, expansion of population, protection of children and women all play a part in the way that humans have interacted. And that women are often the ones who direct these things. By demanding they are protected. By demanding that they not be handed over to other men when they've established the community they want. I'll read the last paragraph because just the first two words gave me the idea that this was fucking annoying. Power is power, but there are many ways to gain power through violence. Physical violence is most obvious, and maybe because of how young our species is. Fucking hell. Our species is young, but biologically we're related to every other fucking species on the planet. We've all evolved in the same basic way. Most of us have very similar behavioural patterns associated with our genotype, you know. What, you fucking idiots don't understand biology, you don't understand history, and you thought you'd write a book for kids to educate them. Fucking hell. Think about. Here's the think about. What other kinds of violence are there? Fuck off. My experience, Dave Pickering. I'm not going to read this. I'll read the opening. Dave Pickering is a writer, storyteller, podcaster. He's a creator of the solo storytelling show, Mansplaining Masculinity. Makes the weekly... Now, how fucking feminist is that? Mansplaining Masculinity. Co-produces the mythical realist family drama podcast, The Family Tree, and hosts... Fucking hell. Oh, he's the Guardian... He writes for the Guardian. Oh, he's been recommended by the Guardian. Well, there's a fucking clue to him. Childhood influences. His dad, working class, Belfast, don't care, or getting up with a belt, beaten with a belt. Yes, I had that too. It's a good way to start out. Unwelcome attention. Don't care. Being bullied. Grow up, you dumb cunt. You get over that shit. A better future. No, fuck off. Think about, how do we think it feels to be bullied? What do you think Dave means by let's kill the patriarchy with love? he means he's a fucking soy boy feminist. Look, Dave Pickering, in this explanation, the reason I won't read it, because I've read it before, is everything I understand about theatrical types. And I have a business in theatrics. I established my own business in theatrics and went out and performed as a performing artist. And Dave Pickering is everything I have known about people in this trade since I was in school. I went out and got a trade. I wasn't one of these people. But if anything fitted the term soy boy, it's those theatrical types who in school knew they were going to be theatrical and just concentrated their lives around being theatrical. I don't fucking want to read your pretentious bullshit. You know nothing. You're undereducated. How does masculinity affect the world of work? No, I've got to move on 2 pages, don't I? I haven't done my duty here. There's Dave Pickering. Ignore that cunt. Right. How does masculinity affect the world of work? The world of work is often about making money. Well, okay, this is dumbing down the whole principle of economics and where it comes from, but okay. Which can make it a competitive environment. All economies are competitive environments unless they've had it stripped from them, in which case they are dead. As we have seen, being competitive has traditionally been taught as if as a masculine trait. No, definitely women are definitely competitive. Little books like Little Women are about the competitive nature of women. So, yeah, don't give me that crap about men are competitive traditionally. No, this is a feminist rewriting of historical history and our understandings. And masculinity is often equated with power. No, that again is a feminist rewriting, which means that the workplace is a site of power politics. No, the workplace is a place of trying to climb ladders, trying to get higher, to earn more. What you've described here, with the idea that a workplace is a site of power politics, is offices with women in them. 100%. 100% women are different in the workplace to men. Men will work hard to get further in their careers, but it's not about power over other people. However, this is exactly how women work. The Industrial Revolution. The modern workplace has been created out of social class systems that are linked to industrialization. Okay. Okay, I'm not convinced that you understand anything about economics at this point. But I'll read this again. The modern workplace has been created out of a social class system that are linked to industrialization. In Britain, the Industrial Revolution created new groups in the workforce, ranging from machine operators to factory managers. Yes, but you do understand that was for most people, that was an improvement. Most people having been serf farmers and so forth. Slaves, serfs, indentured servants. The Industrial Revolution opened up workplaces in which people could earn money by going and working for somebody else to create product. There's so much more to this than what you've tried to put forward. You're trying to pretend that this is the first time. So are you trying to put forward? Yeah, no, you are. You are saying the modern workplace created a social class system, and that's just bollocks. Social class systems exist everywhere. You look at Japan today. Japan has essentially two classes of people. There are the native Japanese islanders and the Japanese people as they understand themselves. The original islanders are essentially a second-class people within Japanese society. You look at Hinduism, and there are three distinct classes of people, and they're not an extremely industrialized society. So, Western, you're talking about Britain because it's an English book. We had serfdom, slavery, and by the way, I'm not just talking about black slavery. That's not even half the picture of slavery. That's a very small part of the picture of slavery. But there was white slavery. There was slavery. There was indentured servitude, which is a upper class version of slavery. And then there was serfdom, which was essentially just another word for slavery. Just meant you belonged. Well, then again, see, slaves often belonged to the property, and serfs belonged to the property. There's really not a lot of difference there. So no, to pretend that classes came about because of the Industrial Revolution, if anything, the Industrial Revolution helped to abolish a certain level of classism and to raise the classes to new heights. As technology advanced and the scale of manufacture increased, the job landscape saw a huge increase in demand for clerical positions. For what? What the fuck? These included filing documents, processing orders, handling accounts, clerical jobs that were considered higher in status than manual factory work. They were expected to be jobs. These were expected to be jobs for men because it was men who were expected to work, while women stayed at home. Yes, because, and no, yes and fucking no. Yes, if you had a job and the man could earn enough money to support his family with the new rising middle class, thanks to the new jobs in the industrial foundation, in the industrial hubs, then the woman could stay at home and raise the children, and the man would be employed and working. But textile mills at the same time were largely employing women. Before that, women did laundry, they cooked, there was a whole range of things that women did. To assume that women were simply out of the workforce because the only women you seem to be able to see are the middle classes, and I suspect that's because you are middle class and have never given consideration to what poor people have had to do forever in order to survive. Yeah. This feminist rewriting of history is fucking terrible. This idea that you teach children that women had no fucking agency. They never worked. They never did anything. The only thing they were allowed to do was spread their legs. Dicks in, kids out. Gender inequality remains a huge problem in the modern workplace. No, it does fucking not. I'm going to keep jumping ahead, skipping this. In 2018, the Office for National Statistics reported that the gender pay gap for full-time work was 13.7%. Yes, which was explained away by Saul, I think it was, back in the 70s, when he explained that the gender wage gap is a matter of personal choices, i.e., the jobs you choose to take, the educations you choose to undertake, and the hours you choose to work. Now, in the last census here in Australia, in absolutely every age group across the board, women worked less hours, working women worked less hours than men. Right, there's your gender wage gap. It's the choices you make. And I know, I'm an at-home father. I am the gender wage gap. I made the choice to not be in the workforce. I made the choice to stop my earning capacity more than 20 years ago. Fucking full of bullshit. By the way, this 13.7%. Oh, see, they've put it across full-time workers, but I'm wondering if that's what it is. Because the gender wage gap that the feminists like to cite is across the entire population. And when you consider the number of women who stay home to parent, 13.7% seems very fucking low. 150 countries have at least one law that treats men and women differently. World Bank 2016. Yeah. Have you seen family law? Have you ever... I'll tell you what. This is a good one. Search Australia Law Duluth Model. You will find the Duluth model buried in Australian law. You may even, I know one search I did, I found the Tender Years Doctrine, and I think I even found mention of patriarchy theory. And any laws that add these to the basis for their existence are going to favour women over men for purely feminist doctrine reasons, not reality, reasons of feminist doctrine. Globally, an established 62 million girls are denied an education. How many boys are denied an education, please? Because this is a book about masculinity. Why the fuck did you tell us how many girls are denied an education? Do the boys deny it of them? It should be noted that there are places in the world where boys have been killed for being educated and girls have been taken hostage and later released. Boys have been killed, had their hands chopped off, for exactly the same reason that girls got away alive. Sometimes maybe made wives of the captors, but alive. Boys didn't get it so fucking sweet. How does masculinity affect the world of work? The workplace has become characterized by traditional masculine traits relating to being in charge, such as productivity. Oh, fucking hell. Productivity, systemization, leadership, and progress. So these are bad things? Productivity is a bad thing. Really? Do you like to eat? Do you like to eat? Would you like someone to produce the food that you like to eat? I don't think productivity is such a terrible thing, nor do I think it's a masculine thing. That's like saying women like to sit on their asses and do fuck all. Systemization. Yeah, and again, you're saying women don't have systems? They don't have hierarchies? You ever put chickens in a pen together without a rooster? They will find pecking orders. Well, guess what? Women do the same. And they do like to have systems. In fact, I would say women are more inclined to adapt to systems better than men. Leadership. Oh, no, that's fucking terrible. We shouldn't have leadership. No. We should all just walk around like fucking chickens, pecking away at the ground, getting fuck all done. And progress. Oh, that's just fucking horrible. Quick, back to the Stone Age, everyone. All of which can be summarized by the word business. I think you will find that these things exist outside of business. I think if you write those things down as business, you are diminishing their value through the rest of society and humanity. You are a dumb fuck. We even see this in schools, which unfortunately have often been like training grounds for male-dominated workplaces. Really? I was fucking typing classes and shit that used to go on in my schools. I learned to cook, I learned to sew, I learned art. Really? I learned music. I enjoyed learning music. It's the only thing I did enjoy. But these are male-dominated workplace teachings in schools with an obsession with regimented behaviour and masculine appearance in uniforms, including shirts, ties, and blazers. So you've chosen specific, because I went to a school that didn't have a uniform. It wasn't a big problem. There was a shirt you could wear. There was a school shirt, but it didn't have a strict uniform policy. It really wasn't an issue. But yes, you're saying that regimentation is bad. You know who deals with regimentation in classrooms better? You know who it is that succeeds in these places better? It's the girls. It's the girls. Given the opportunity to rise up in the classroom, it will be girls. It won't be boys, because we don't sit still. Regimentation, if anything, is a way to control male behaviour, something that women and girls just fall into. You think that's an anti-male thing or an anti-female thing? Masculinity is so closely linked to the concept of work and business that we often assume that the workplace is mainly a male space. I don't actually, and I don't know where the fuck you thought you got that from, because the people in this book are younger than me. I never got that. That was not the education I got. The education I got was girls can do everything. Boys, you'll learn shop. That was essentially it. This isn't helped by gender inequality in pay, which is a fucking outright lie that the feminists keep clinging to. One problem is the idea of a glass ceiling, which is another feminist lie that they keep clinging to and has been so debunked it is stupid. A limit that women reach in their professional development because of a bias in favour of men. No, a bias in favour of people who work hard and strive for those jobs. There are women in top jobs, and you know what they do? They forgo having a family. The same as a man forgoes having a family in order to become a manager. Now, admittedly, the woman might have to keep her legs closed in order to forgo a family. Take the pill, whatever in the fuck you, however you want to spin it. Keep her legs closed is how I'm spinning it. A man, on the other hand, can find himself a wife willing to raise a family. But he won't be the one raising that family. He will be at work. Now, I'm an at-home father. So you explain to me why it is that women who want to succeed in the workshop can't marry a man who maybe has a lesser education or doesn't have as much income and is willing to stay home and raise children. Because there's your problem. Your problem is women thinking they want to marry up because they want more money and power. It's got fuck all to do with men. One problem is the fuck that shit, bias favour men, that's bullshit too. A masculine workplace feels, no, it's bullshit too. Look, I have two partners, female partners, both in workplaces that are entirely women. Right, entirely women. Do you really think these are masculine workplaces? Run in a masculine manner so that men can dominate them. New practices, but time may be changing. Alright, I'm just going to skip this. Flexible working, bullshit, doesn't work. Maybe in some very small ways, but it's not fucking productive. Emphasis on collaboration and problem solving was never not a thing that men did. If you put men together in a workshop, we will put our heads together and work out how to get things done. It's not as if we didn't do that shit already. empathy, being aware of other people's feelings and listening. No, that shit just slows fucking crap down. And I'm going to say this, every bitch who wants to cry instead of getting on with fucking work is not helping your company to succeed. You do not have to have empathy for the people around you. If they can't keep up, then someone else needs to be in their job. Yes, there is a reason for businesses to strive to get things done. And it's not just masculinity. Creativity. Instead of just setting targets. You do realise the Industrial Revolution, which you're so down on, was a massive expression of creativity. Massive. Men and women both played parts in that creativity. Flat hierarchies, meaning everyone being treated the same, does not fucking work. It just does not fucking work. If you don't have somebody to direct a pack of fucking cats, then the pack of cats is going wild. You have to be able to corral them and pen them. This is just... No, look. In any case, there are no workplaces like this. Unless the CEO of a company is earning exactly the same money and doing exactly the same job as everyone else in the company, there are no places that work like this. There will always be someone at the top. And we actually know that there are feminists who have tried to run companies by these rules, and they have failed dismally. There are even a couple who have written about how terrible it fucking was trying to do this. Relaxed dress codes. Yeah. Because, you know, boring suits doesn't suit women. They want to dress all fucking sexy. The reason for the suit is to have a dress code which makes everybody fairly even on the platform, right? That is actually a leveler. Even though masculinity has been seen as a normal feature of the workplace for a long time, it's looking to be an increasingly poor fit for modern business. No, it's fucking not. No, it isn't. If you can show me a place that works by these rules, I'll show you a place that's not going to be there in 10 years' time. With more women in the workplace and in positions of power and leadership and the legalisation of gay marriage, what the fuck's got gay marriage to do with it? You know what gay marriage did? Proved that gay people don't want to be married. Their divorce rates are higher than anyone else. Especially the lesbians. A liberation of LGBT. Nobody gives... This got fuck all to do with this. Traditional definitions of masculinity are changing for the better. I hope that the feminists do fucking get off their high horse about masculinity and things do change. Okay. It's another personal account, so let's see how fast we can skip this shit. Aisha Small is an innovation leader in education and youth think and action tank MLKMCO. So nothing fucking worth thinking about. Alicia was previously an assistant head teacher and taught maths. Columnist for School Weeks, Regularly Education Media Outlet, has been seconded. Yeah, okay. She's basically a fucking teacher who served high. Happy times, being a daddy's girl, modelling masculinity. Dad was the first real role model. Just having a quick squiz here. Apparently he was a good dad. Facts and feelings. When I became a teenager, our relationship shifted. Yeah, because what? Caro, nothing in there worth thinking about. Relationships change, right? Discussions with my sons. You shouldn't even bloody be allowed near boys. Discussions with my dad. No. Like, think about what have you learned. By the way, I'm skipping these because there's nothing that adds to this book in these. Not a single fucking one of these adds anything to this book. These are personal accounts to try and make this book, give it a personal touch, a personal feel, because that's how you sell indoctrination. It has to be about me and how wonderful it is. It's hard to fucking explain, but yeah, that's all these are. All these people who've participated in telling us their life stories have added nothing at all to this book. Where have ideas about masculinity come from? We've said that the popular ideas about masculinity and about how men should behave have come from the stories and messages we hear. Actually, no, right back in the first subject, you admitted that discussions about masculinity were feminist. You did. You said discussions of masculinity were feminist, right back at the start of this book. I thanked you for admitting that this was a feminist indoctrination document. But where do these stories and messages come from? The answer to this question is not straightforward, but one important place that stories about masculinity come from is the world of politics. Oh, fucking hell. You don't know what caused World War I and World War II. You think it was just men wanting to slap one another until somebody fell over. How can you tell us anything about history? France in the 1800s. Napoleon Bonaparte was a French military leader who conquered much of Europe, early 19th century, gave an overview of laws, influenced many countries in Europe and beyond. Code started that a husband owed protection to his wife and his wife owed obedience to her husband. Now there, we're leaning on what I said, is that everybody had a role. Everybody had a responsibility. The man's responsibility was to be able to join an army, go to war in the defense of his family. And for that, all he was owed by his wife was a home and children to return to. What a fucking... How bad is that? Who got the worst end of that fucking stick? It also gave men, but not women, civil and political rights. Same reason, really. It is exactly the same reason, because, and I have to say again, not all men. Men, as a general, did not get the vote. Peasants didn't get the vote. Right? You are just writing this here as if that's what happened, but it's not the case. A woman was not allowed to buy property without written permission from her husband or father, but she was allowed. She was allowed to own and buy property. It wasn't forbidden. God, so many things wrong with the way you just portrayed that. But all you've said is the man owes a duty to his family. And that Napoleon set that down across Europe, although I suspect it already well and truly existed. But yes, men owed a duty to their family and their nation. 1920s Italy. In Italy in the 1920s, Mussolini, leader of the National Fascist Party, came to power. Do you know he was a communist before he essentially penned National Fascism? Very interesting story. But yes, this is a essentially socialist movement that developed. They had soon abandoned democracy in the country and transformed Italy into a fascist state. Yes, but you don't explain what fascism is because you don't fucking know. In order to establish Italy as a strong nation, Mussolini promoted traditional gender roles, which he linked back to ancient Rome. It doesn't matter. It's still saying the same things. It is saying men owe their family and their nation a duty. And we still have this today. In the US, the Supreme Court have only just said that it is sexist for men to be called up for national service, but not women. So this is a duty that men have always had. And all you're saying is in the 1800s, Napoleon knew it. In 1920s, Mussolini knew it. Soviet-era communism. Let's see. The Communist Party of the Soviet Union put forward the idea the new Soviet man, featuring in propaganda posters of the period, such as the one below, ideal masculine qualities including being healthy, masculine, knowledgeable and hard-working, as well as being selfless, dedicated to the Soviet Union. It's again the same thing, isn't it? The difference being that the Soviet Union essentially stripped people of the will to succeed. Yes, because when you can't strive for more because you're going to get the same pay as the dipshit next to you. Look, I picked tomatoes for a living at one point. There was an idiot on our machines who was in with the people running the farm we were on. And he would pick fucking nothing off his rows. Now, I met an old bloke on the picker, and he and I were gun pickers. So we'd sit next to one another. Gun picker, for anyone who doesn't know, is someone who can strip a tomato bush bare as the machine passes. You're the fastest, you're the best. You can pick them by colour, you can pick them by anything, you get them off. You throw the rotten ones to the ground and clear the bush, if that's what's needed. I and an old bloke on the team were gun pickers. And we would get put into this guy's rows after a couple of days to clear rows that he'd picked nothing in. And essentially we'd be dropping rotten fruit to the ground. The problem with rotten fruit on the bushes is it spoils other fruit. Because it gets bugs in it and shit that get into the other fruit. So, what we would essentially been is we would have been the suckers getting the same money for doing double the work or more. And what that does to you is after a while you stop picking so hard. And we both did. We sort of set up a pact that when we were on his rows we just wouldn't pick them. At all. We'd pick fuck all. Then they'd say, why didn't you pick this row? We'd say, well, there's just too much rotten shit in it. We couldn't drop it all. It was too much for us. That's what your communism does. So yes, although they wanted a masculine man whose duty to state more than family was important, they'd stripped him of any real wish to try and strive for better. Latin America in the 1960s. In the 1960s, feminism in Latin America began to write about machismo. I don't give a fuck. I just don't. I understand that Latin men have a different masculinity, but at the end of the day, they're still meant to be responsible for a family. It's just... that was one of the most useless pages ever, because you explain nothing about where this came from. Nothing at all. That was the question. Where have ideas about masculinity come from? And you told us nothing. You told us men had a duty to serve their family and their country, their nation. That's it. What ideas, how far are we from the end of this book? What effect do ideas about masculinity have on relationships? I'm sorry, but I'm going to leave this at this one, I think. It's an hour in and that's enough for this one. I will try and finish the book with the next one. I think I can do that. Yay. So yeah. I hope you're getting something out of this, because all I'm getting is a fucking headache. This is just feminist narrative, feminist narrative, feminist narrative, and filler. And a fucking shitload of filler. Every personal account adds nothing to the story. Things like the last page that we were on, what was that? That was, where have ideas about masculinity come from? All it did was write some feminist rewriting of historical record in order to swing a narrative without adding anything at all to the conversation. Napoleon didn't write the rules around your masculinity. He simply wrote that men had a duty and women had a duty. And you know, that's what's missing from the world today. I know my wife today is wearing her shirt that says, it's the Rosie the Riveter, and says, can we do it? We can do it at the top. But at the bottom, the message is, and take responsibility for it. And this is what feminism has tried to take away, is the idea that we are responsible for our actions. Alright. Next video, we'll finish this book. And even if we don't get to the end, we'll stop it somewhere. And that's it. I've had enough. I'm going. I do not want to do this anymore. I've had enough of this. I'm out of here. I've been the anti-theocrat. May your gods remain fictional. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, have fun.